Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Akam, and this is the Stu Benz Senior Services Fund section of our program. I'd like to welcome our guest. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it, Frank.
We're talking Camp Gorton. Now, I was not a scout, so I'm going to pretend there's other people in this audience that aren't scouts as well. What is Camp Gorton, and what does it mean to the scouting community?
Well, Camp Gorton is this is the 100th anniversary of Camp Gorton being in existence, but really it's been around for 102 years. Oh. And Kurt will share more about the history of it. But Camp Gorton for the summer camp is the highlight experience for all scouts that attend Cub Scout age, which are between first grade and fifth grade, and then Scouts BSA between fifth grade all the way up through senior year in high school. And it allows them the opportunity to earn merit badges, be able to participate in activities they don't normally be able to do in a regular troop meeting or a Cub Scout pack meeting, and really it allows them all the scouts to be able to take what they've learned throughout the year and really synthesize it into a week-long experience that is usually the highlight of their scouting year.
Oh. Now tell us a little bit about the history, if you don't mind.
Well, the history of Camp Gorton really started around the same time as the history of scouting itself here in the States. Scouting itself started in 1910. The first troop in the Corning area was in 1911.
Oh, wow.
And then you had Troop 2 out of the Episcopal Church starting in 1916. Now, scouting was slowly growing, and then there was a meeting in Hornell in January of 22, and all these adults got together and they said, you know what, we've got all these scouts. We got to do something with them.
Yeah.
Just these regular meetings isn't cutting it.
Sure.
So they decided in January that they were going to have a camp that summer. So in just 4 or 5 months, they had put together a camp. And what they did was they located on the west side of Juanita Lake, land owned by a guy named Fred Playstead. He was a farmer. He said, hey, you can lease this waterfront field from me.
Wow.
And they got themselves a whole bunch of these World War I surplus tents, these big like cone-shaped tents. And they had a chuck wagon. People had donated rowboats or whatever. And that was the program. They were off and running. Now, that first year, they had a good turnout, more than they expected. But this next year, they said, you know, we really got to publicize this.
Sure.
So at the time, one of the big guys in the council was Henry Houghton, the ambassador.
Oh, of course.
He was quite young. Him and this Dr. Gorton got together and said, let's have a rally, a picnic rally.
Yeah.
And Gorton went around to all the fraternal organizations and said, look, we need your help getting people there because, you know, back in 1923, the roads between Corning or Bath or Hornell to Juanita Lake weren't that great. Not a lot of people had cars. Mm-hmm. And so they had all these organizations bringing people. They had guest speakers coming down from Rochester, circuit judge, and so on and so forth. They ended up with over 1,800 people.
Wow. So
they said, this isn't going to cut it. This field, it's nice, but forget it. Mm-hmm. So at that point, Houghton raised about $1,300, and Gorton donated 3 acres. Houghton bought through the council 5 acres, so they had this 8-acre plot on the east side of the lake where the point is, and that's where camp is now. And it just kind of grew from there. Over time, they had people donating the dining hall, the Elks Club in Corning, Bath, Hornell all got together. They donated and built the first headquarters building, and it just ran.
Yeah.
And it just continued to grow. You know, their first inspection was in 1928. That's when scouting really said, hey, we've got all these camps, we've got to do something.
Right.
And they got an A. Oh. And, you know, around that same time, the ambassador, well, he was ambassador at the time, turned to his father, Alson Houghton, and said, hey, you know, Dad, we need this nature lab. Mm-hmm. What can you do for us? And his, you know, Alson Houghton said, tell you what, he says, I'll pay for it, but Ephraim Lawrence, who is this world-renowned naturalist professor at Cornell University, he says, I want Ephraim to design it. Wow. So he designs this laboratory, and they build it. You know, Houghton paid for it, and at the time it was ranked as the best nature laboratory of any camp in the country.
Wow, amazing.
And we still have it today.
Yeah.
And things have just continued to grow over the years. And Houghton himself got more and more involved. Not only did he become national president, but he went on to get international awards. You got awards from, the highest awards from England and not here in the United States, Chile, and then Scouting's highest international award, which was the Bronze Wolf. So, it's Scouting itself has had a huge history in the Corning area. We're one of the few areas that I don't know of any other place that has had two national presidents. We had the Ambassador Houghton, but we also had Dr. Tom McAvoy, who was president of Corning back in the 80s.
Wow.
So it's quite a history.
And you mentioned 1928, which is perfect because I happen to have that picture that I showed you earlier. How has the camp changed since 1928, other than the few things you've already mentioned?
Well, the dining hall has changed. We actually tore down that dining hall in after the summer of 1998 and built a much larger dining hall that could seat up to 400 people inside of it now. But not only that, we've expanded the program areas that we had back in that time period, where it was mostly central around what we call the parade field today. But now we have 7 different program areas for Scouts to be able to participate in a waterfront area that has not only swimming, instructional swim, but also a variety of different opportunities with paddleboarding, rowing, canoeing, kayaking, also learning how to drive a motorboat and water ski or wakeboard. We have a shooting sports area, which is phenomenal, that has not only teaches archery, rifle with 22, shotgun, 12 gauge, 10 gauge shotguns, but also has action archery program. It has a cowboy action, which allows for pistol shooting as well as black powder, and also there's a ski field there too. So, and there's other program areas as well: fishing, knot tying, fire building, etc.
You can see why this is a favorite event every year for the Scouts. That is amazing. Now, you mentioned 1911 here in Corning, so there is that rich history. What does Scouting in the Twin Tiers look like today?
Well, Scouting really took a hit during the pandemic because take away the outing in Scouting, and it really limits what exactly you can do. But over the past couple of years, Scouting has actually started to build back up from the numbers that we had that we lost during the pandemic, and continually growing as a matter of fact. In terms of the Corning area, there's multiple packs or Scouts BSA troops that Scouts can join. Like I said, if you have a young boy or daughter, it's opened up to boys and girls actually starting in 2018 and 2019. So that gives an opportunity to join all the way from kindergarten through senior and high school. And really the focus of Scouting is learning character, citizenship, physical development, and leadership. And the skills that I learned in Scouting as a scout, Kirk can probably attest this to, we use in our regular everyday lives and our professional lives.
I'm sure. Now, you mentioned that when they originally came up with the idea for Camp Gorton, it had about 4 or 5 months to get this up and running. How long has the celebration for the 100th anniversary been? Longer than that?
It's taken us about a year and a half to really get everything under control, and it's gone through multiple shifts and so on and so forth, but I'm very excited. We're seeing a lot of people that were camp counselors in the 60s and 70s are excited to come back.
Oh, sure.
We have a gentleman that was waterfront director in the 70s, and he wants to get together other people that were on staff with him to do a special skit at the fire, at our campfire during the day. So it's building a lot of momentum. And, just like any scouting event, nobody registers early. They always wait till like the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Yeah. So you have no idea what to plan for. It's July 13th, the 100th celebration of Camp Gorton. What are some of the events that are planned around that day?
So we're going to give camp tours and show what exactly camp looks like for a lot of people who may have not been there since the 1980s or 90s. It does even look significantly different with obviously the large dining hall, but also shower house building and main bathroom that we made in 1999, as well as the waterfront lodge, which has 4 different apartments that sleeps up to 16. And that building is used not only for summer camp, but also year-round rentals as well. And that's something else I'd like to highlight, that camp is not just for Scouts. It can also be rented out for outside groups as well. throughout the year, and it's used nearly every single weekend throughout the year, or can be used during the week as well. We're also going to have a dinner. We're going to highlight give out some awards, open up the time capsule that was opened up, I think, the last time in the early 1980s or late 70s, I believe.
Oh, interesting.
And seeing what items are in there, adding to that for the next time it's opened up. But probably the highlight for summer is going to be the softball game that's going to happen, the campfire that's going to occur. So
That's always been during camp week. Softball games on the parade field are just, great way for, it's a pickup game. A great way for the scouts to burn off some energy.
Of course.
And,
Yeah.
and it's exciting. And as George said, the camp has grown. We're at about 340 acres.
Wow.
Lots of trails for hiking, and just the opportunities are endless.
So is this event just for former scouts, or can anybody attend?
Anybody in the community is more than welcome to come. Or if people have any questions about using camp throughout the year, they can contact our Scout Council. If you go to fiveriversbsa.org, you can actually get our contact information and find out how exactly to experience the magic of Camp Gorton throughout the year or at summer camp.
And is that the best place to RSVP as well?
That is, yep.
Okay. So just before we go, someone who has never been, how would you explain how special it is to the scouts for Camp Gorton?
Well, Camp Gorton has always been one of the finest scout camps in the Northeast. They've done a phenomenal job over the years of taking care of it, and it really shows. If you go to any other scout camp and then visit Gorton, you will see the differences. And it's just the character of the people that have gone through there. Our former ranger really would say it best. He would say, when scouts come in, "Welcome home, Scout."
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
Once you've gone there for a week,
Yeah.
it's like going home. And if you've been on staff, it even means more so. So
Sure.
that's why we're getting such a great turnout for this event.
So again, the event, July 13th, the 100th celebration of Camp Gorton. Thanks so much for being on the show this morning, and good luck with all the planning as it nears.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. Stay with us.